Should you use Ozark Razorback Cowpeas as a cover crop? You can see that there are quite a few Ozark Razorback Cowpeas planted throughout these two raised beds. One of the reasons was to create a cover crop to protect the soil so that the sun doesn't just beat on the soil, despite the fact that there's 50% shade here, that the soil would be protected, the irrigation system would be protected from the intense heat here in the Sonoran Desert. It also prevents water from evaporating out of the soil as quickly. What I did this morning was trim back, well, entirely cut off one of these Razorback Cowpeas because you can see how big these are getting. And this one has gone 3 feet up, this okra plant, and it covers a whole lot of area. Look at the size of these leaves. This is, well, this one's not the best, healthiest example. You can see that these leaves get absolutely huge. Now I planted 21 seeds among these two beds and an in-ground bed. And there are some differences in the size, but you can see how effective these have been at creating shade. One of the things I had no idea about was how big these plants would get. So when you're deciding how many do I want to plant, where do I want to plant them, how big do they get? You can see for yourself right here, this is 5.5 feet long. It's been essentially 2.5 months, and the size of the leaves, well, this was just covering way too much of where I put those dragon tongue beans. And these leaves, let's go with this largest leaf here. This is 3.5 inches across by 5 inches. It's a sizable leaf. Let's compare this to this in-ground bed over here. You can see the cowpeas are scattered throughout. These are considerably smaller. There are a few differences. This is in-ground, perhaps. This bed is not as effective because the soil is different. The drainage from the water is different. I put fish emulsion, and I did that in the other one as well, but these just started booming in the last week. But you can see they're quite a bit shorter, smaller. It's only about 18 inches high max. They're not quite laying down the way the other ones are. And the size of the leaves, these are quite a bit smaller, but you can see the growth from the last week. It's pretty stark, it's pretty impressive. But you're looking at yourself for how much is protected by just a single plant. Is 1 per square, this is obviously square foot gardening, is 1 per square enough? Perhaps. And for the most part here, I did a maximum of 2 per square, thinking that, you know, if one doesn't pop up, a second one would. And this is a case of, here's one popped up, the second one didn't. But for the most part, whenever I planted two came up. But you can see here that this cowpea is now leaned over and it's protecting these lettuce, which certainly are bolting. Something to consider for yourself, though, is how many you should plant, how big the plants get, how much nutrients they'll be taking out of the soil. One thing I didn't cover when I shot this 2 weeks ago is how productive these are. Haha, check that out. Didn't even see this pea pod this morning, but it took about 3 months. I mean, these are just now starting to come in, but you can see if you're trying to grow something, if you're trying to eat this, there's not a huge amount of peas coming off each plant. And maybe that's just a result of needing just to wait a little bit longer. You can see nowadays that this is even a little more dried up. It's 108, should be 110 this week. They're struggling a bit. But you can see the pods are just now starting to come in. But for the amount of plant, you're not getting a ton of food. And maybe that'll change when the temperatures start to cool down. I could very well imagine that they don't really appreciate being in the hundreds, but maybe in a couple more weeks I can do an update video. But this definitely something to consider is, what's the end goal? Are you trying just to protect your soil? Are you trying to grow something to eat? Of course, both would be better, but it doesn't always end up that way, and sometimes you just really want to protect your soil, in this case, so that we can make it to perhaps the more productive growing season when the temperatures cool down. I really hope that this helps you with your planning in the future, just to give you an idea of what exactly you're signing up for. So now the question is, are Ozark Razorback Cowpeas the right choice for your garden? At least now you have a little bit more information to make a more informed decision. Thanks for watching.